George Hinge of Hinge Designs. Welcome to my studio. Oops. There we go. My studio is in Providence, Rhode Island, and my company is Hinge Designs. I hand cut stone jewelry into rings and all sorts of things. And this is my space. I come in here, I work here every day and carve. This is my bench. Here's a collaboration I did with my friend Katie. And here are the pieces that I have for Field and Supply. I left one piece at home, but this is my magical space. I really, so I cut stones. I started cutting stones back in RISD in 2008. Here, let me flip me back to me. So I started cutting stones back in 2008. I took a glass carving class because I couldn't get into the glass blowing classes. And I really wanted to, but that was the only class I could get into. And I learned how to carve glass. But at that point, I had just started setting stones, and I was so fascinated by stones. And I decided, I was like, oh, can I cut stones too? And they were like, I guess so. It's not as cool as glass, and I think it's much cooler. So that was when I first started carving stones. I started carving the rings. And I just started being fascinated. I first really started with just basic agates and beach stones, and then worked my way up into semi-precious and bright and colorful stones, which is what I love working with today. Thanks, Brad. Hi, Lizzie. Carved napkin rings. I can definitely carve napkin rings. It's not the easiest thing to do, but I can definitely make that happen. Let's see, what should we talk about? Let's go through here. Well, let's go through all the tools that I use. So this is where I normally sit. My computer is in the way, but this little pie dish here. Let me flip this. So this little pie dish here is where I cut all of the rings. All of my tools are diamond plated, and everything is cut underwater so that the dust is super toxic. And a lot of stone dust contains very strange minerals that you do not want to be breathing in. So everything is cut underwater in this dish. And let's see if I can you guys see that? I can't see the screen. But so I usually start with this set. I start with the tiny burrs, the tiny circle burr, and work my way up to these big guys to get the ring hole. So you start with a really tiny hole, and you work your way up to a ring size, and then you start carving down the bigger pieces. So then I'm going to flip around. So then you would take this piece that's got a ring size hole in it. It's already been sized. And you would come over to, oops. Thank you for your patience. I thought I had this under control. This guy over here, which then, so everything is always done wet. So then you turn on the pump. and the water. And then this, I'm not going to turn it on because it's very loud, but then you carve and grind down. This is covered in diamond plated. I also have one that's concave that gets carved, so you can carve in more of a shape. So you spend time grinding here. There's also, in this machine, there's also a saw here. But the majority of the time, I use this other saw. Over here, where it's a bigger saw, and I can cut down larger pieces into slices. So you can line up your slices and slice up bigger pieces. And then there's also this tool over here, which is a flat wheel, always with water, always water in here too. And you take pieces and they spins around and you flatten them out. Then after everything is carved, it goes into a rock tumbler, which I am going to show you how it works. Back to napkin rings. Do I have stones big enough? Yes, I will talk about the stones in 1 second. Napkin rings. Do I have stones big enough? Of course I have stones big enough. Let me show you. Oops. Actually, we'll go over here. And you can see my stone collection. I am a stone hoarder. And, sorry for this. I got so all down here and all down here and over here and up here are just some of the stones that I have. I love stones. I go, let's see, oops. There we go. So many cool stones. So, this year I was really lucky. I got a grant by Design by RI, and so it was funds for my business and 6 months of business classes, but I was able to go to the Tucson Gem Show in Arizona right before COVID hit. I was very lucky that I was able to go to that, but I went and I got to meet the miners, which my goal eventually is to be able to create a collection based on the different visits to different mines around the world that I go to. So this year I made a friend in Australia. Let's see, where do I get from him? Who owns a Mookaite mine. This is Mookaite jasper, and it just has the coolest colors in it. It's purple. Let's see if we can get the light better. Purples and yellows. And so, what's his name? Earl. I'm going to go visit his mine eventually and start a collection based on, but I was able to meet him and talk to him. He is a friend of mine, and now we talk all the time about different rocks. And now I can see, he shows on his Instagram where the materials come from, how it's found, how it's mined. And yeah, this is one of my favorites. He also has a chrysoprase mine, which chrysoprase is my favorite. Also found in Australia. Australia has the coolest rocks. So this is chrysoprase. It's got the gemmiest green color. And it's almost translucent. And then it comes in the mint. It comes in a really yellow piece as well. Giant piece. This is like a lemon chrysoprase, which is like such a cool color. And it's also very dirty, but can I talk about my beach stone collection? I can do that. So Claire, thank you, Claire, for asking. Claire is a good friend of mine that has been, actually, let me turn this so I can see the comments and not have to keep turning around. I have been going to the beach at least once a week this summer. I live in Rhode Island. We have the most beautiful beaches and the next collection. So I've been scouring the beaches trying to find all of the most amazing stones I can find. And I have probably 50 pounds worth of beach stones to pick through and find the rest pieces. But I'm going to do a collection of rings and earrings based on mostly striped beach stones, but then a bunch of different colors too, that I've found along the way. It's fun. It's going to be a really fun collection. I just finished, I'll take you over there, a collection of rings for summer, and I finished them yesterday. They're heading into the tumbler. So these are the rings I just finished. Such cool colors, lots of pastels, a little bit of blue opal, some rose quartz. So these are now they're all carved down as much as I can carve them. And then they're going to head to the rock tumbler. 1 second. Over here, and I can do this with you. So everything goes through the rock tumbler for at least 5 days. And there's inside the rock tumbler is a carbide silicone base. It's kind of like sand at the beach where it just spins and spins and spins. So all of these pieces, I'm going to add a little bit more, are going to go through the tumbler for 5 days. And then spin and spin and spin until, for 5 days to smooth out the stones. So each piece comes out super, that's how I get the matte finish on my pieces, which I think brings out more detail in the stone. Most stones are high polish, which I think can be really beautiful, but the matte finish brings out a lot more of the detail and the colors and the textures in the stones. Go over here. And this will spin here for the next 5 days until the rings are done. And then they hopefully will be on my site in the next couple of weeks. I'll definitely stick some up on the Field and Supply site too. Let's see. Do you guys have any more questions? Did you ever buy the rock tumbler? I sure did. So that was my first rock tumbler. It's still over, where is it? I think I threw it away because it fell apart. But I did have the little red Tumbler's Tumbler rock tumbler. What is my favorite stone to date? I think it changes every day. Chrysoprase is definitely one of my all-time favorites. I also really love lapis. I really love the bright colors. Like here's a piece of lapis that I got in Arizona. This comes from Afghanistan. And it just has the coolest lines. Let's see. Can I talk about my new collaboration? Yes, I did a really incredible collaboration with Katie from Killer. We met at Field and Supply, and then we did another craft market together in New York over the holidays and really bonded and really just enjoyed each other. Here is one of the pieces. So she does metal work and uses natural forms. Here we go. So these are brass porcupine quills that she casts, and then my pieces of different stones that go with them. I think they're just such a beautifully elegant piece. I really enjoy the metal and the transition. I started carving stones because I was trying to figure out how to make pieces without the barriers of metal, because I think in some respects, like when rings are made and they have barrier of metal, the cabochon in their set, I think sometimes that's really beautiful, but I think it brings, like, you miss some of the details in some of the stones. But I think these pieces with brass together is just a really cool cool thing. And then I can also go through some of the pieces that I have for Field and Supply. Oh, actually, here's another piece that I'm going to, another piece that I will work on soon. This is opal from Australia. I love Australian stones, but I just kind of, see if I can get it light. It's gross. Focusing. All right, let's see. Let's go over here. It's easier this way. So for Field and Supply, I chose a bunch of bright colors, where here are the rings. We've got lapis. This is the brightest, bluest lapis I've ever seen and ever been able to cut. It's so beautiful. We've got, checking this box, sorry. We talked about challenges working with stones, yes. We've got some blues, blue quartz. So, yes, there are many challenges to working with stones. I break, for rings, it's about 30%. For earrings, probably the same. Stones have weird fractures inside of them that you never can tell. Like sometimes it's made and it's been a ring for years and all of a sudden there's some small fracture that you just were not aware of. And then, oh, I did these also for Field and Supply. And there's a couple missing because I have a home studio as well because it's so hot in here in the summer and I haven't gotten a chance, or I thought I had grabbed them all, but I had not. But I'm doing these new collections of just like fun, funky colors and pieces together. These are cool. Let's see if I can get the labradorite to flash. It's got this crazy labradorite. Another one of my favorite stones. I think it's so hard to choose a favorite stone because there's so many beautiful ones and it's like every day you find something cool and different in each one. Let me know if you guys have any questions on any of this. Here is my workspace. Here's some other rings that I have all done and some stones that I cut. I really love this polychrome jasper with all of its different colors in it. I also am working with a painter friend of mine to save the lapis pigment so they can use it in their oil painting. Let's see, come back over to the questions. But I do really love working with the stones themselves. My apologies, my studio is next to a highway, so sometimes you hear a lot of that. Can you show us more of my favorite pieces? Oh yes, necklaces. I am working on, I think these are my favorite pair of the Field and Supply collection, although I'm still obsessed with these pieces from Katie and the Killer collection. So here's a necklace I worked on. I think I actually first debuted it in my first Field and Supply, and I was doing whole stones and slicing them down. And I would love to get back into it. I just bought this piece of malachite. Here, I'm gonna have to get it wet. Stones can always be seen better when they're wet. So it's a whole, you can't really tell from here, but it's a whole spiral of malachite. There we go. So I'm going to cut this down, slice it all up, and make it into a necklace. So with the beach stone, I'm doing the beach stones, and I would love to do a necklace collection soon. Let's see. This is my little mess. So many dirty rocks. Everything is dirty. Everything is always dirty. But it's so much fun. And then even more stones. There's so many stones. I can't even tell you how many stones are. I can't imagine ever moving studio spaces because of how much weight of stones there is. Let's see. Here's some really cool ones. These are polychrome jasper from Madagascar. They have the coolest colors in them. And then, let me check the questions one more time. Whoops, sorry. Spun that around too fast. Love those colors. Aren't they incredible? Here, we'll go over to my saw and see what I have been cutting. There's some really cool pieces over here, too. I got this. This is a new find from Arizona, actually, called Fawn Jasper, where it's got all the spots like a deer. And there are two people selling it right now, and I've been able to track down about 10 pounds of it, and I just think it's the coolest stone. Let's see. And then I've got this giant piece of aquamarine too. It's a little bit more green than normal aquamarine, but it's got the coolest striations in it. Let's see. What else? And I'm so grateful to work in this beautiful, beautiful space. Old mill buildings can get very, very hot in the summer, but they just have the most beautiful charm. We've got, let's see if I can back up, 30-foot windows, 20-foot windows, 30-foot ceilings. And it's just the coolest space to work in. I share it with three other jewelers, but I'm hoping to expand into more of the space at the end of this year. Let's see, let's not put that in water. Here. Oops. Sorry for the shaky camera angles. Flip around thing. There we go. Your napkin rings will fit in this new tumbler I just bought. How big do you want them? I just bought a larger tumbler. I haven't tried it yet because tumbler barrels. I'm going to try it with the earrings because they are smaller pieces and even if they break, they're easier to turn into other earrings as opposed to the rings, which they're my babies. I spend more time on the earrings outside of the tumbler, and after the tumbler, and the rings I spend all the time before the tumbler. So once the earrings are cut, they go in the tumbler and spin for 5 days, and then I do all the drilling and putting them together, as opposed to the rings where I do everything beforehand. And so I have a new tumbler barrel, but I haven't used it yet. We're getting there. Next week, hopefully I'm cutting more earrings. Is it possible you can make something where you can see the detail with the matte finish? I'm working on that. I mean, I think once it goes to the tumbler, it gets a lot more polished down, and it definitely sees. They're basically polished enough that you can see the details. Can I talk about the evolution of the work and how I came to do what I'm doing now? In college, I actually did. Oh, I have one right here. Incredible work with feathers. Where I was electroforming, copper plating giant feathers and feather pieces. So I was doing mating rituals of birds and creating these moving pieces that you could wear to flaunt how you feel. And then I transitioned. I was working at the same time I was working on stones. In school, I chose to focus on the feathers because I had the equipment to do so. And then after school, I was actually luckily gifted a set of stone cutting tools. So that's what I started doing again, and I just love it. I love the stones. I love working with the different colors, the different materials. Everything is always different. I think if I was a production jeweler, I would just go making the same thing over and over again. I would just go crazy, and every stone is different, every piece is different, and I think that's what I really, really love about it. Let's see. Do you guys have any more questions for me? I think I have about 5 more minutes. I really enjoyed taking you guys into my space. It's such a pleasure. Field and Supply has been so much fun. I love what they've done. it's such an incredible weekend, trying to get the market feel. It's so hard right now without having markets. I think a lot of especially my work, it's so tactile. It's so hard to sell. It's harder to sell online. It's so much better in person when you're trying things on, when you're feeling things, and just to know what the materials are like. So to have this ability to show you my space and to show what I do, how I do it, has been really incredible. Do I have a favorite stone? Always changing, always changing. Crucifraise has been my top for a while, but I think polychrome jasper is also a favorite. It's always got a really great piece of it. Different colors. Let me see. It's always got spots and different colors, earth tones. I'm really excited to start working with opals. I've found an Australian opal mine that I've bought some pieces from, and ideally I also want to start a collection of like higher end translucent stones, so like kunzanite and rutilated quartz and lots of different things, which would have to actually have a high polish, but I finally have tools that I'm able to do that with, so that's exciting. Do I ever work in crystal? I do. That's also what I'm trying to work for. So clear translucent stones are definitely something I would love to work with. I finally have the equipment. I'm starting to get better. I'm not good at polishing things, but I also have a friend that is very good at it, and I think I will work with him to do that. Anything else, guys? This has been really fun. I think you should all check out the rest of the lives. I'm really excited to see what else everybody's doing today. Here's one of my favorite pieces from the collection. It's crucifraise and carnelian, which is this orange color. So I've got one of Katie's, one of mine. Yeah. What is your green earring? So this is crucifraise and carnelian. I left the other one at home accidentally today, but it's so cool that they're translucent and the colors are just so great. Close. So those are up on the site too. I've picked just my favorite bright colors and fun things for spring or summer and put those up on the site. Yes, collaboration ideas. Ideally, I'm looking to find a larger tumbler so I can start making wall hangings. I would love to cut up really big pieces of stone like this guy and make big pieces for wall hangings, which I have to find. I'm getting a bigger saw. It's in the mail, but it's stuck in customs right now because of COVID. And then I'm also working with a weaver to make pieces for their weavings. And I definitely want to do more with Katie. I think it was really fun to work with her, and it was really fun to work with a different material and a different set of parameters, which was fun. Yeah, I'm really excited about the wall hangings. I started cutting pieces down, but then my tumbler's not big enough, so I just have to figure out which size I need for that. But I would love to have just pieces of really, really crazy stones up on the walls. Mobiles too, yes. Mobiles are on the list too, for sure. I also, actually, it's one of my dreams too, is to make chandeliers. Big chunks of stone that are translucent with the light behind them and hanging from the ceiling. I've always loved chandeliers and big lighting objects. So I have a friend that's a lighting designer that I'm going to work with too. Actually, no, he's moving away. I'm going to figure out something to do with him though. Yeah, I have a lot of ideas. And through this grant, I was able to buy a bunch of tools. The grant that I got, I was able to buy a bunch of tools to update my studio so that I can start making bigger work, which is really exciting for me. Yeah. Any last questions? Thank you so much. Thank you guys all for joining me. This was lovely. I know it's early, but thank you for coming along to my studio. I really appreciate it. And check out the rest of the lives today. Check out my pieces on Field and Supply. If you guys have any questions, I'll be on the Groovio today, so you can pop in and talk to me. And yeah, thanks for joining in.